Alright, now we're going to do solving inequalities with multiplying and dividing. And the reason I'm making you do both of these the same day is because we've already done them with equations and rational equations. And so really, at this point, it should start being review. Okay. First of all, when you're graphing inequalities, if there is a less than or greater than sign, it is an open circle. Yes, you're going to have to write this multiple times. And then if there is an equal sign underneath them, it is a closed circle. Now, the steps to solving are almost identical. There's just one big difference. And when we get there, I'm going to highlight it. Okay, so step 1 is to draw railroad tracks around the inequality sign. Okay, let's do another one. Let's have 5x is greater than 15. Okay. Step 2 is to circle the variable and anything attached to it. Okay, now we have these two examples. Step 3 is to undo any multiplication or division. Okay, so this is being multiplied. If you guys cannot remember what operation is taking place, I have my little cheat sheets. They're red and they're on the counter. Let me grab one. Some of you have seen them, but if not, you're welcome to come get it. Okay, it looks like this. When a number is next to a variable, it means multiply. So the opposite of multiply is to divide. Divide by 5. Those cancel and leave you with x is greater than 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay, in this case, let me grab a calculator. I can't do that in my head. We're going to divide by -3/2. Divide by -3/2. And remember, on this one, because the number is still next to the variable, it's still being multiplied to the variable. Okay. And so you have to divide. So 9 divided by -3/2. Can you see it? Is -6. So those cancel and leave you with -6. Now, here's the step that is very different, okay? If your last step requires you to multiply or divide, okay? Oh, I think it got messed up in the printer. Let me see if I can actually read it. Okay, if your last step requires you to multiply or divide either sides by a negative, you must flip the inequality sign. So your last step is that if either side requires you to divide by a negative, multiply or divide by a negative, you must flip the inequality sign. That is just unique to inequalities, okay? It is different, it is new, and it's something you need to get in the habit of, okay? Only when there's an inequality sign, if it has to do with multiplying or dividing by a negative, you have to flip the sign. I tried not to give you too many of these just because it's new. But if you noticed, on this example, we did not multiply or divide. There was no negatives involved with the variable. And so the answer is just x is greater than 3. And the last step is to graph the solution on the number line and always include 0. So that one would be easy. 0, 3, open circle. X is greater than, so it's any number greater. But in this case, if you notice, we divided by a negative. And if you divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign. I'm just going to write that in. Divide by a negative. So you had to flip the sign. And the main difference this changes is before x was less than -6, so your arrow would have gone this way. But when you flip the sign, x is now greater than -6. So it has to go this way. See, so it's actually a big difference that you don't always anticipate happening. Now, there's 4 problems I'm going to do with you here just because I know it's kind of new. And then you have 4 practice problems. Okay? Now, and all of these are being divided by a negative just to help. Or multiplied by a negative. Okay, railroad tracks. Circle the variable. You have a -3z, so the opposite of multiply is to divide by -3. Those cancel and leave you with a z. -4.5 divided by -3 gives you a positive 1.5, and you have to flip the sign because that's a negative. And graphing 0, 1.5, open circle going this direction. That one I just knew because your arrow goes that way. Now number 2, railroad tracks. Circle the variable. These are being multiplied, so the opposite is to divide by -2/5. Divide by -2/5. Those leave you with an x. Oh, I was supposed to flip that sign. I was supposed to flip the sign. White out. It's great. Okay, I have -8 divided by -2/5, which is 20. Okay, and then I need to flip the sign. That's drying. It's almost dry. But now I got it on my fingers. How funny. The sign's gonna look like this. Oh, now I have white fingers. Okay, and once again, I like the variable on the left side. So after I've gone to this point, I personally am gonna put the variable over here. And x is still greater than or equal to 20. But that would be your very last step if you were to flip it. And the reason I like it is because if you have left it over here, then the arrow doesn't point to which direction you graph. Whereas as long as your variable's on the left side, it tells you, hey, your graph goes this way. But that only works if your variable's on the left side. And so that's why I do that. But you can't do that until after the very last step. Number 3, railroad tracks. Circle the variable and anything attached to it. The whole term is what it's called. So you're going to multiply by -3. You're going to multiply by -3. Those cancel and leave you with the x is less than or equal to 27. Oh, I didn't flip the sign again, see? when you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign. Even I have a hard time remembering that sometimes. And then I'm going to graph it with a 0 and a 27, and x is greater than it. Close circle. This way. And the last one, number 4, railroad track, circle the variable. These are being multiplied, so divide by 6/5. And if you notice, I'm not dividing by a negative here. All of these other ones I divided by a negative. This one isn't. This one's a positive. So I don't have to flip the sign, is what I'm saying. Negative 12 divided by 6/5 is negative 10. Now, because I like the variable on the left side, now that I'm done with everything, I'm going to put the variable on the left side, and it still has to be less than negative 10. 0, negative 10. It's a closed circle pointed this way. Okay, that took a little while, mostly because it's just the flipping the signs and everything is kind of new. On your assignment, I tried not to give you too many of those. Now, if you could, I would like you to pause it now. And after you pause it, I want you to solve these 4 problems by yourself. And I want you to solve the problems on the adding and subtracting, it's this last page, by yourself. And then you can come push play again, and I'm actually going to put the answers up. Okay, since I'm not here to check them. But please push pause for now, and so you don't just copy them down. I want to see if you can actually do it. Okay? Okay, so the answers here look just like this. And the answers to adding and subtracting look just like this. So now you can check your answers, fix your mistakes, and then come up and get your assignment.